Vic, thank you very much for making time for this. Good morning from the West Coast.
Good morning. Very nice. Very nice to see you. You're the first person I'm seeing today, and you're a sight for sore eyes. You look lovely.
Well, that's the first time anybody other than my mom has ever said that. So thank you. You're up early for rock and roll hours.
A little bit, yeah, but I got to start getting used to it. You know, our little my baby is on the way. She's due any second now. So
wow! Congratulations! I got one coming in May.
Hey, congrats! You're right. You're right up there too. This is coming around the corner.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's. I want to start by asking about your new album, which I've heard the singles from it, and I thought it was pretty interesting because it's got kind of this grunge flavor that I was not expecting, and it was cool. I liked it, but definitely a big departure from where you guys have been before. Where did that come from?
Well, I think we were craving something a little different. You know, I think our last couple records, we really dove really deep into like kind of a lot of high gain metally tones and really intricate, complex stuff. And so for this record, I was just craving something completely different and wanted to kind of take more from the inspiration of bands that I listened to growing up, more 90s bands, you know, like, cause I always loved like punk and fast stuff, but I was also really big in like Pearl Jam and like Stone Temple Pilots and the Cranberries and all these kinds of bands. So, kind of leaned into that stuff because I grew up playing that as well. And, I've never really kind of fully shown it in our band. So that's kind of where all that came from for me.
It sounded like Silverchair to me when I first heard it.
Yeah, that's funny. We're doing like a little promotional thing where we're gonna give away it's like a contest, and we sign one of our new vinyls, and then we pair it with one of our favorite vinyls of all time. You know, and I paired mine with Frog Stomp by Silverchair.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's interesting to hear these kind of influences come up more now with you guys and some other people are doing as well. Because for years, it was really just not cool at all to like say that you liked any of that stuff.
There's a lot of things that weren't cool for years, like cargo pants are fully back. Like if
I'm hoping the juicy tracksuits come back.
Oh, they'll be back for sure. But like, you know, if you got caught in like corduroy pants or like cargo pants at a certain time period, man, that was really bad. Like that was about as bad as it gets. And now they're just full force.
Yeah. Well, of the songs that I've heard so far, the song "Even When I'm Not With You" might actually be my favorite song that Pierce the Veil has ever done. Like musically, lyrically, I liked it a lot too. Genius, if it is correct, genius.com tells me that it's about missing your wife when you're on the road. I've been married for a long time, and I can definitely relate to that. Is that what it's about? Tell me about the lyrics.
Yeah, it started off, it's inspired by a text actually that my manager sent me a text one time that just said, "Even when I'm not with you, I'm still with you." I don't remember what I was going through. I was going through something, and I was struggling with something, and she wrote that to me, and I thought it was beautiful, and I wrote it down. So I was like, this could be a great lyric. You just inspired me. And so yeah, and then I developed it into just a little simple love song to my wife about devotion and you know, knowing that no matter how far away I am in the world, that we're always connected through our love. And and I tried to say it in the most creative, poetic way I possibly could, you know.
It's nice. It feels very heartfelt.
Thanks. Yeah. And the guitars are one of my favorite things about this song is, we're always trying to do something that we've never done before. And I think the thing that we did on this song musically was, I've always wanted to write a song that is a single looping riff throughout the whole song. So all that changes is the melodies. And So I think we were able to achieve that on this one, and it was really fun to try that.
I like that kind of emotional tone because I feel like that is kind of missing from a lot of music in, whatever genre you want to call it. There's a lot of like angry music and sad music. And maybe there's songs about like, oh, I like the girl, but she doesn't like me back. And, and all of that stuff is totally valid. But especially, as we all get older, I feel like those kind of emotions are stuff that I like to see expressed more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sour songs right now. This is just a love song, and it's might as well, this is coming from Beatles inspiration. Just like try to like just sing about this person and make them feel really good, and yeah, that's what that was for.
How do you feel about getting out on the road a bunch now? You've had, nobody was playing shows for a while and you got a baby on the way and stuff. How do you feel about getting back on the road again with that in mind?
I'm very excited to be touring again. We toured for the last 3 months, and it was the greatest touring we've ever had. It was so exciting, and the energy was just on a high that I've never seen before. And so, yeah, and we appreciate everything so much more now as we've gotten older, and we haven't toured in so long. And I definitely am a little scared about handling touring with having a new baby. I think that's this is something I've never done. So I've been confiding in a lot of my friends' bands who have done this before and asking them questions and kind of seeing how they did it. And so I'm just kind of like looking for tips right now.
And really quick, before we go any further, have you checked out my Patreon? Patrons get early access to all my main channel videos and my podcasts. I also do giveaways sometimes. For example, I just gave away a pair of these Eargasm earplugs. And if you want me to review your music, there's a way to do that as well. All you gotta do is join at the $10 and up level. Then every month I do a call for submissions. If you want me to review something, all you gotta do is drop it in the comments of that post. Then I will review it live on Twitch and post it on Patreon for everyone to see. So if that sounds cool, hit the link in the description of this video, and I appreciate your support. I work a lot, but I don't have to like get on the road. That would be difficult because, there's going to be first moments that you miss, and I'm not trying to like bum you out, but I'm sure you've thought about all these things. And I don't want to miss a thing. Put on some Creed with Arms Wide Open.
Yeah, man, it's going to be emotional, but we're going to get through it.
You got to do what you got to do. Yeah. Well, so you're talking about the run you did with, there was the one with I Prevail. I don't know was there another one I'm not thinking of?
We just finished a headliner in the UK.
Oh, okay. And it was interesting seeing that because, like you said, I feel like, the hype was huge in a way that, like, not to say that I wasn't expecting it, but you really never know, if you take a lot of time off, you guys haven't put out music for a while. A lot of bands kind of from your era of when you came out, and it's kind of horrifying that Pierce the Veil is like almost 20 years old now, which is scary. But a lot of bands from that era, have kind of maybe fallen off a little bit. And that certainly isn't the case with you guys. Do you have any thoughts on why that is the case?
I think that I just feel like we have a unique fan base. I think that our fans have, I think we're pretty deeply rooted with them, because of how, like you said, our band's nearly 20 years old. So it's been a long, journey of steps of building with them. So, I think it just, our connection with them runs really deep. And so when we're off the road, we still see growth because there's always this like support of our fan base, just, rooting us on, telling us they can't wait for the new music. And that gets us, that's what keeps us going and wants us to make a new album, is when we see that people still care and they're investing in us. So that really inspired us for this record. When we were recording, I printed out big old posters of our crowds from over the years, because we have these beautiful pictures of our crowds, and So I put them all over the studio so that we would remind ourselves of like where we're going to be, you know, who's going to be listening to this. Like we're going to be on a stage in front of these people. And I think it really helped us keep in a good mindset for the record.
You've got to keep yourself happy as a musician, obviously, because like, you know, that's part of why you do this. How do you kind of balance the, I don't know if selfish is the right word, but like the things you want to do for yourself versus the things that you know or think that fans want? How do you kind of balance those two things?
Like me, like in songs,
yeah,
and stuff. I think that it always has to come from us first. I don't think we can really. I don't know if it's smart to write from a place of this is. I think this is what you want to hear.
Right.
I think that would be confusing. But for
you
me,
can
it's
tell
like,
when people do that, and it almost never works out.
Yeah, that would be harder for me to do, I think, because I don't know what people exactly want. Because everybody wants something different. So
right,
it's really just about putting in as much of ourselves into these songs as we can, making them as honest as we can. Every lyric for me is, I try to make it count and make it exactly what I want it to be. And that's what takes the longest for me. That's why every Pierce the Veil record gets pushed back because I'm just not done with the lyrics. Everything else will be done, but it's just about getting the words right.
It's interesting that you say that, because I've become very aware over the past few years that a lot of rock fans basically don't give a shit about lyrics. And I do a lot. I care a lot about lyrics. And it's like, I can tell there's a lot of people, especially like men, that really just care about the riffs. What makes lyrics so important to you?
I think when I first started writing music, the first songs that I wrote were like Pennywise songs. They were like, fight for your right, stand up, you know, integrity. And like, I loved that stuff. And then all of a sudden I started with our first Pierce the Veil record, I started dabbling with like, emotions and like talking about myself. And all of a sudden the songs felt like 10 times more powerful. And it was like, I had this layer of music. And then as soon as I added those words to it, the song just like shot up into something like that I felt so like strongly about. And so I think it started then when I was like, man, lyrics just elevate things to such a high level. So yeah, it started when I was in my early 20s, like started just developing my writing.
It's interesting that I feel like part of that is coming from the fact that, I don't want to say all of it, but a lot of rock, especially like metal and metalcore kind of stuff, is kind of increasingly become like guitar music written for other guitarists. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, you guys definitely have a lot of kind of guitar heavy music as well. But I feel like, you know, it's kind of a net negative for the genre if like only guitar people care about this stuff. And I think that's part of what people connect with Pierce the Veil, is that it's not just the riffs.
Yeah, I mean, because I care about both. You know, I really do. Everything starts with music for me. You know, I always say that I'm a guitar player first, because that's how I started. And my goal is to have a song make you feel something before there's even a single word on it or a single note saying. So I always want there to be motion in the music as well, so that you could hear the song and feel sad or feel excited, or so that's like a gauge for me, is like if I'm in my studio and I'm just feeling this music, like, and it's making me feel a type of way, like that's when I feel like I have something special. So I do want it to start there with riffs and with emotion in the music.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is the TikTok moment that you guys had. It seems like that was kind of a surprise. It definitely, I mean, I didn't expect King for a Day to like go viral on TikTok in 2022. How did you guys feel about that?
It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. It was so crazy, you know, like, cause we couldn't have planned any of that. You know, we were just home. We were trying to finish our album, and like there was nothing going on with the band. Like we were just hibernating, waiting to put new music out. We didn't have a single piece of new music out. And all of a sudden this song from 10, 12 years ago just started, it like, I think it reached #1 on rock charts.
I think so.
It was crazy. So, it was super exciting. I loved every minute of it. I loved watching the fans develop this trend into different things. So it was like a snowball effect of people like trying to top each other on how creative they can be on it. And we were just sitting back, just watching it and just loving every second of it. And I think I'll never forget the moment when I woke up and we saw that Lizzo had done the trend.
Oh, wow.
And,
I didn't see that.
Yeah. And me and my wife were just like, I just held my phone in the air. I was like, fucking Lizzo, what is happening? So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a wild ride.
Yeah.
I love that the people did this. You know, it was incredible. We appreciated like all of that stuff.
What I thought was really cool about it is seeing so many younger kids that look, you know, they seem like Pierce the Veil fans from like 10 or 12 years ago, but like the new generation of that, like there's those, right. There's one of the most popular ones is I think they're like El Salvadoran or something like that. There's like 3 or 4 girls like in their basement. And it was so cool to see because it's exactly the same kind of energy as, you know, the old school Pierce the Veil fans. And to see like a new generation of that is just really inspiring.
It is inspiring. It's energizing. And, yeah, we didn't know, you know, what to expect when we started coming back into the spotlight. And, I really felt it a lot too at our live shows. You know, I would tell the crowd, I'd be like, who's seen us before? You know, throw up your hand. And it'd be like, you know, a good amount of people. But then who's never seen us before? Who's the very first Pierce the Veil experience? It was like whole crowd freaks out. And so that told us that there's this whole new generation of music lovers out there, and these kids kind of starting to define themselves with their music tastes. And man, that just opened our eyes to be like, oh my God, there's a whole new era of our band, you know, right in front of us. So it's really exciting.
What I think is insane is that there's people who would see that as a negative, that there's, you know, some kid that discovered Pierce the Veil on TikTok 6 months ago, you know, like treating them like they're not a real fan, or you only know King Forte. That's insane.
I've seen this a lot. I've seen this a lot of people like calling people TikTok fans.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you're a fan of music, no matter how you discover it, if it moves you and you love it, you're a fan of it equally to anybody. You know, you can't compare yourself or think you're better than anyone else just because of the platform that you found it on, you know?
Right. Like, we discovered stuff from MTV. Does that make us not real fans?
Yeah. All these MTV kids out here selling out the Green Day show, you know?
And people said that back then, and it was stupid when they said it now, and it's stupid when they say it about TikTok. Like, it doesn't matter. If people like it, then that's all good. It doesn't matter how they find it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Time will work all that out.
So when you see the crowds now, like, what is the mix of kind of old school versus new fans?
It's an amazing mix. It's like people with their kids, and then there's straight up just, you know, the 13-year-old who's never been to a show before, who's crowd surfing for the first time. You know, it's like, it's amazing. The energy is high. It's, I wasn't sure if, you know, the crowds would be as aggressive as they are, but because of all the new, fans, it's like bouncing and going crazy, and it's been amazing. So, really, like, you know, we feed off of that, especially our bass player, Jaime. He's going to hurt himself up there because of how like, he's like a puppy who, like, when people get excited, he gets excited. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, you took, your last time was what, 2016? Is that right?
I think so. I honestly I don't like to keep track.
Yeah. I think it's been a long time. And I know, like you said, it got pushed back a few times, and I think you guys were maybe kind of sort of on hiatus. What made you kind of decide like the record's done, like we're coming back for real, for real? Like what was the moment?
I think one of the biggest moments was when we locked in a producer. You know, we locked in Paul Meany. You know, he just came off of doing 21 Pilots. So we got this big producer to do our record. And so we're just like, oh my God, like this is a huge moment. You know, we got this guy to do our record. And then, yeah, I mean, that really lit a fire for us, because we were like, you know, this record could be anything now. Like we're gonna really bring everything we got to the table. And then I know he's gonna bring everything. So this could be something really, really special. So, you know, that got us really excited to do the record.
How do you know when something like, I mean, I guess this is part of what the producer helps with, but it sounds like you're one of these people that likes to kind of tinker with stuff for a long time. How do you know when a song or an album is like done?
It's, to me, I've always compared a song to a painting, you know, a painter who's painting, and only the painter knows when the last brushstroke is made, because it's just a feeling. You know, you go like that and you go, I think that's it. You know, that, you know, no one else will notice that little thing that I did, but you can feel it. And it's just like a feeling of just something locking into place, you know, and in your heart and your soul and your mind, you're just like, yep, that's it. I think I've achieved what I wanted with that, you know. And that's really hard to get to that place. But yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Are you someone that looks for a lot of input and feedback on that, or you just listen to your own internal voice, or like, how do you approach that?
It's always internal. Like I don't think we let anybody tell us when that something needs more or that it's not done or whatever. But I don't know. I take that back. I think Paul would tell me if he thought that something wasn't strong enough, you know, if like a lyric wasn't there yet, because he had high hopes for something in his mind about a song. And sometimes I couldn't reach that. I was just like, I don't know. I feel it. Like, I love the song. I'm already feeling it. And he'd be like, it's not, the lyric is not there. We got to get there. And I'm like, well, that always my gauge has been, if I'm feeling it, I think someone else is going to feel it, you know? And so there was definitely some battles that went down with us on some of these songs, and that's okay. That's why we hired him.
Yeah. That's what you're paying him for.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to just tell you it's great, play it for your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Was there any part of you that was like afraid that you were rusty or anything like that?
I think I was a little, I don't know. I was unsure of how I was going to do coming in vocally, because I hadn't tested my voice to its 100% capability in like a couple years while I was writing. So, you know, when I'm writing, it's like, I'm not going to like scream like 1,000 times and like try and like blow out my voice. I'm trying to get ideas gathered. So, but when it comes down to doing the record, it's like, you got to really put your whole body into everything and really see what you got. And, luckily I spent a lot of time with, actually Jaime, engineered all of our vocals, my bass player. Oh, wow. So it was just me and him in our studio, just laying down everything. And it was actually a really fun experience. So, that put my mind at ease.
I mean, that's so much like being a vocalist is really kind of like, it's almost like being an athlete. It's like half athlete, half actor, because you do have like there's a physical component of it more so than with guitar, but there's also that mental component. Like if you don't feel good, you're probably not going to do your best performance either. So I can see 100%. How like having that kind of environment would help a lot. Yeah.
And it really showed itself when we started touring. Like I think that a touring voice trying to find that again. Like, you have to sing in a way that allows you for longevity, because you got to sing every single night almost. And so that I had to learn again. It took me like 2 tours to get back to where I was feeling like I had tapped back into something that I had forgotten.
So like the first show is like when you haven't been to the gym in a month and you come back and you're like, holy shit.
Dude, we were real scared for that first show. We're like, we're gonna all explode on the first note. I don't know what's gonna happen. You saw what happened like Rage Against the Machine with Jack De La Rocha, like
with his knee or ankle or whatever.
Yeah, he went on like was that the first show, second show?
Something like that. Yeah.
He blew out his something, and I was, damn, we don't want that. So we trained a lot actually before getting ready for it.
You're not getting any younger. You got to think about that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, it was a really interesting thing for me to see back in, 2014, 2016 or so. It seemed like there was this moment where there was a lot of bands in your genre, like Mice and Men, Asking Alexandria, Sleeping with Sirens, you guys that were like hitting the Billboard top 10. And I was like, holy shit, this is weird and cool and awesome. Even if you don't care about charts and, gold plaques and all that kind of thing, like it's still cool to see. And it's like, to me, it's like important for the culture in general, because it does help everybody. If you guys are doing well, it helps the smaller bands and all that. What was going, as someone who was, you were in it, what do you think was going on in that moment at that time? And how did you feel?
I think that all our bands just kind of kept moving forward until, I guess, just the right time, until like the generation started shifting, until like the charts, the people who run the charts or whatever started shifting into people who actually grew up listening to our music. And I think that's what it took. I don't think anyone was going to give us a chance and play a Pierce Prevail song on the radio 10 years ago, or it was just too risky. Right. And but now, with like, I think our genre and all these bands have proven themselves over time, and they have real fans. And what do I tell? I tell like younger artists to like just be undeniable, So I think at some point everything was undeniable. It was like, yeah, look at these shows. There's all these bands are selling all these tickets, and there's all these fans, and there's all these streams, and this is like real, So we should probably play them on the radio, or maybe we should like give them credit on these charts and stuff. And so yeah, I think it all just kind of just became undeniable.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And there was a few years there where I was like, this is never going to happen again, because, rock is just kind of burned out. And I felt like it was kind of just not going to happen. But now when I see the stuff that's happening on TikTok, and like you're saying, the younger kids going to shows again, and they're discovering, it's interesting to see them discover so many older bands. Like, Deftones are probably more popular now than they have been in 20 years or whatever. And, you guys, and there's like every week there's like some old song that like blows up on TikTok again. And it kind of does feel like maybe it could happen again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty rad to see these bands having a resurgence, like Deftones, like that. I love that, like, young kids are rocking Deftones shirts. I'm like, yes. You discovered it. Hell yeah. So yeah, that's really exciting.
It is interesting though to see so many young, like when I was 13, I didn't give a fuck about listening to some song from 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. That was like my parents' music. Mm-hmm. And I don't think kids now feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, the music, like I saw this TikTok the other day, and it was like this probably like 13, 14-year-old girl. And she was like talking about how cool her mom was when she was a kid. And they showed pictures of her mom, and her mom was straight up like a Deftones, like Korn fan, you know, and I was like, and she looked so sick. And I was like, you know, that's definitely different than our parents who were rocking out to like, you know, 70s bands. It was, you know, it feels different,
Right.
I guess culturally. So I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or if everything is just secular.
It does feel different. Like listening to stuff like Led Zeppelin, no disrespect to like Led Zeppelin or Santana or whatever. Those are great bands, but like listening to that in the 90s felt very like dated, and it felt like a different world. You know,
it was hard for me to get into those bands like Rolling Stones and the Beatles, and I did eventually, but it didn't come very naturally in the beginning.
Yeah, whereas, you know, like you said, Deftones or Pearl Jam or Nirvana or, you know, whatever stuff from the 90s still sounds, Rage Against the Machine for that matter. I was listening to that album yesterday and I was like, damn, this could come out today, their first album, and it would crush. Everybody would love it. Yeah. Like the 90s is when stuff started to sound like modern, I think.
Yeah, there's a whole podcast conversation to be had about that topic of like, you know, because you also throw into the mix that there's social media now, and things can go viral easier, and you can actually access things easier. So, but when we were younger, all that you had was like these old dusty records or something, you know, so, or like some tapes, you know,
right.
So it wasn't like really being presented to you in a great way.
Right. Yeah. But either way, you know, it's cool to see. I'm happy to see kids getting into this stuff. And it feels like, I would have never guessed to say it, but it feels like, you know, the future is brighter for bands like you guys now than it has been in a long time, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's pretty amazing, man. We're very, very thankful for the vibe right now. It feels great.
Right on. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I will let you go, and best of luck with everything.
Hey, thanks, man. This was fun.
Appreciate it. Take
care.
Do
it again.
Yep.
Later.
Bye.